American cities are facing a crisis. This crisis is not just about the visible decay of our urban landscapes or the underfunded public schools that struggle to provide quality education. While these issues are significant and demand our attention, they are symptoms of a deeper, more insidious problem. It's not a crisis of crumbling infrastructure or failing schools, though those issues exist too. The real crisis is one of the heart, a profound decline in the social fabric that once held our communities together. This is a crisis of the heart, a decline in the social fabric that once held communities together. Our parks, once bustling with children and families, now stand empty. Public spaces that were once the epicenters of community life are now deserted. People are increasingly isolated, lonely, and disconnected from their neighbors. The hustle and bustle of city life, ironically, leaves us feeling more alone than ever. We walk past each other with our heads down, lost in our own worlds, rarely making eye contact or engaging in conversation. This isn't just a personal problem, it's a societal one. The lack of community engagement is evident in our empty community centers and poorly attended city council meetings. When people stop participating in local governance and community activities, the very foundation of our society begins to erode. Strong communities are the bedrock of a healthy democracy and a thriving economy. When people come together, whether at a farmer's market or a neighborhood block party, they create bonds that strengthen the social fabric. These connections foster trust, cooperation, and a sense of belonging. When those connections fray, we all suffer. The deserted playgrounds and closed community centers are stark reminders of what we've lost. The absence of these communal spaces means fewer opportunities for people to interact, share experiences, and build relationships. Loneliness has reached epidemic proportions, with the Surgeon General labeling it a public health crisis. The mental and physical health impacts of loneliness are profound, contributing to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even premature death. We yearn for a sense of belonging, for meaningful interactions that go beyond superficial exchanges. Moments of genuine connection, like laughing with friends at a cafe or engaging in deep conversations at community events, are what we crave. Yet the very structure of our cities, our lifestyles, and our social patterns seem to be conspiring against us. The sprawling suburbs and busy highways that cut through our cities create physical and psychological barriers, making it harder for us to connect with one another. This decline is not a sudden phenomenon. It has been a slow, creeping process unfolding over decades. The rapid urbanization and technological advancements have reshaped our lives in ways that we are only beginning to understand. It has been creeping upon us for decades, a slow unraveling of the social bonds that once tied us together. The contrast between old, vibrant neighborhoods and the decaying urban areas of today is a testament to this gradual decline. To understand how we arrived at this point, we need to examine the forces that have reshaped our cities and our lives. Gentrification, economic inequality, and the relentless pace of modern life have all played a role in this transformation. We need to confront the ways in which we have become complicit in our own isolation. Our addiction to technology, the preference for virtual interactions over face-to-face conversations, and the design of our living spaces all contribute to our growing sense of disconnection. It's time to acknowledge the problem and begin the difficult but essential work of rebuilding our communities. By participating in neighborhood events, attending community meetings, and fostering real-life connections, we can start to mend the social fabric and create a more connected, compassionate society. The automobile, once a symbol of freedom and progress, has become deeply intertwined with our isolation. In the early days, cars represented a new era of mobility, allowing people to travel further and faster than ever before. They were seen as a gateway to new opportunities, adventures, and a sense of personal freedom. However, over time, this symbol of liberation has also become a symbol of separation. As cities sprawled outward after World War II, fueled by the allure of the suburbs, cars became not just a convenience, but a necessity. The post-war boom saw a massive migration to suburban areas, driven by the promise of larger homes, better schools, and a perceived higher quality of life. This shift was heavily supported by government policies and the construction of extensive highway systems, making car ownership almost mandatory for suburban living. We traded bustling sidewalks and vibrant public spaces for lengthy commutes and the isolation of our vehicles. The once lively city centers, filled with pedestrians, street vendors, and public gatherings, began to empty out as people moved to the suburbs. The daily routine for many became a solitary drive from home to work and back, with little interaction with the community around them. Suburban life, with its emphasis on privacy and single-family homes, further exacerbated this trend. The design of suburban neighborhoods often prioritizes private space over communal areas, with large yards and fences creating physical barriers between neighbors. This focus on individual property and privacy can lead to a sense of isolation, as opportunities for spontaneous social interactions are reduced. Instead of encountering neighbors on front porches or shared stoops, we retreat into our private yards, our interactions mediated by fences and manicured lawns. The front porch, once a staple of American social life, has been replaced by backyards designed for private enjoyment. This shift has changed the way we interact with our neighbors, making casual conversations and community bonds less common. The car becomes our cocoon, transporting us from our isolated homes to our equally isolated workplaces, with little opportunity for genuine connection along the way. The daily commute, often spent alone in a car, can be a time of stress and frustration rather than social interaction. This routine reinforces the cycle of isolation, as we spend significant portions of our day separated from others. This dependence on cars has created a vicious cycle. As more people rely on cars for their daily transportation, cities and suburbs are designed to accommodate this mode of travel, often at the expense of other forms of mobility. This car-centric infrastructure makes it more difficult for those who wish to walk, bike, or use public transportation, further entrenching the reliance on automobiles. As more people opt for the perceived convenience and privacy of car-centric living, our cities become even less pedestrian-friendly and more hostile to public spaces. Wide roads, large parking lots, and a lack of sidewalks make walking or biking impractical and sometimes dangerous. This environment discourages people from engaging in outdoor activities and reduces the vibrancy of public spaces. Shops and amenities cluster in sprawling shopping malls accessible only by car, further discouraging walking or biking. These commercial centers are often located far from residential areas, requiring a drive for even the simplest errands. This layout not only increases traffic congestion, but also diminishes the sense of community that can be fostered by local, walkable businesses. The result is a landscape that prioritizes individual mobility over social interaction, leaving us feeling like ships passing in the night, even within our own neighborhoods. The physical distance created by car-centric design translates into social distance, making it harder to form meaningful connections. As we navigate through this sprawling environment, the sense of community and belonging that once defined our neighborhoods becomes increasingly elusive. In many suburban communities, the desire for control and homogeneity has manifested in the rise of homeowners associations, or HOAs. While often touted as a means to maintain property values and community standards, HOAs can have the unintended consequence of stifling community spirit and exacerbating social isolation. Instead of fostering a sense of shared ownership and responsibility, HOAs can create an adversarial relationship between residents and the association itself. Rules and regulations, often enforced with an iron fist, can feel more like constraints on personal freedom than contributions to the common good. Disputes over landscaping choices, noise levels, or even the color of a resident's front door can escalate into bitter conflicts, eroding any sense of neighborliness. Moreover, HOAs can contribute to the homogenization of communities, discouraging diversity and reinforcing existing social divisions. By prioritizing a narrow definition of what constitutes an acceptable resident, HOAs can exclude families, individuals, or lifestyles that don't conform to the prevailing norms. This lack of diversity can lead to a sense of sterility and artificiality, undermining the organic connections that make communities thrive. In recent years, a new phenomenon has emerged in many suburban communities: the rise of suburban commandos. These individuals are not military personnel, but rather residents who have taken it upon themselves to defend their neighborhoods from what they perceive as threats. Their mission: to maintain the status quo and protect their property values at all costs. These are residents who view any attempt to increase density, diversify housing options, or introduce more affordable housing as a threat to their property values and way of life. They see new developments as intrusions that could disrupt their peaceful, homogeneous communities. The fear of change drives them to take action, often in ways that are exclusionary and self-serving. They mobilize against new developments, often using NIMBY or not in my backyard tactics to preserve the status quo. These tactics include attending community meetings en masse, organizing protests, and lobbying local government officials to block proposed projects. Their goal is to prevent any changes that might alter the character of their neighborhoods or lower their property values. While concerns about traffic congestion or strain on local resources are sometimes valid, the rhetoric employed by Suburban Commandos often reveals a deeper anxiety, the fear of change and the perceived threat to their privileged position. They worry that new developments will bring in people who are different from them, whether in terms of income, race, ethnicity, or family structure. This fear of the other drives much of their opposition. They frame their opposition in terms of preserving community character, but their definition of community often excludes those who are different from themselves, whether in terms of income, race, ethnicity, or family structure. This narrow definition of community serves to maintain their privileged position while excluding others who might benefit from more inclusive and diverse housing options. This resistance to change has far-reaching consequences. By blocking the development of more affordable and diverse housing options, Suburban Commandos contribute to the economic and racial segregation that plagues many American cities and their surrounding suburbs. This segregation leads to a host of social and economic problems, including reduced access to quality education, limited economic opportunities, and increased social tensions. By blocking the development of more affordable and diverse housing options, Suburban Commandos contribute to the economic and racial segregation that plagues many American cities and their surrounding suburbs. This segregation leads to a host of social and economic problems, including reduced access to quality education, limited economic opportunities, and increased social tensions. The lack of affordable housing forces many families to live in overcrowded or substandard conditions, which can have negative impacts on their health and well-being. They perpetuate a system where access to good schools, safe neighborhoods, and economic opportunity is increasingly determined by zip code. This system of inequality ensures that those who are already privileged continue to enjoy the benefits of their status, while those who are less fortunate remain trapped in a cycle of poverty and disadvantage. The disparities in educational opportunities in particular have long-term consequences for social mobility and economic growth. This is not the hallmark of a healthy and thriving community. It is the perpetuation of inequality and exclusion. A truly vibrant and inclusive community is one that welcomes diversity and provides opportunities for all its residents to thrive. By resisting change and clinging to their privileged positions, Suburban Commandos are undermining the very fabric of their communities. It is time to rethink what it means to be a community and to work towards a more inclusive and equitable future for all.